I was the little guy who took out the big guy in this situation, where I walked in there with 300 plus pages and I was ready to go and I was dressed the part.
Today on Time We Discuss, I have Zachary with me. Zachary's a horse trainer and has an equine business. Zachary, thank you for joining me today.
Nice to be here.
I understand, your history. You were in the military. You left the military. You created this equine business. I'd love to hear more about that transition from the military into the civilian world. So, what was that like for you?
When I got out of the military, I did what most people do, and I went to college because the military pays for it, and that's a big benefit. So when I was going to school, I was dabbling in computer science and dabbling in business while I was riding horses pretty heavily. And, I was not in a great mind space. And I think that losing my like true identity, like I thought my identity was this military guy. I had true purpose. The military really kind of focuses you and gives you a purpose. And I had a strong team. And then you get out of the military and you lose your team, you lose your purpose, you lose a, a forced drive, and you have to go into the world and figure it all out. And so that was pretty depressing for me. And the horses were kind of my savior. They gave me purpose, they gave me direction. I had to be the best version of myself for them. I had to leave all of my frustrations and irritations behind so that I can get in the round pen or the arena with that horse and be a good version of myself to help them get along better. So over time, looking back on it, I saw that the horses were a huge therapy for me. And without them, I would have been a broken person for a lot longer. And so while I was going to school, I was spending all of my free time with the horses. And then when I had a job, I was spending all of my free money on my horses. And the thought was like, how do I just do the horses for a living? Like, how can I make this my money maker, my career? And so I fell back on what I knew from the military, went back to, intelligence gathering, and I went and found other people who are doing what it is I wanted, figured out how they were doing it, and started that journey. And the first business was kind of, I thought, okay, what did I learn in the military? I have a skill on training horses, and I have what can make me different. I found that I have land navigation as a background from the military. I know how to hunt fairly well. So I built something where I could do pack trips and bring people out into the wilderness. And that quickly changed into doing luxury pack trips because there was a little more money to that. And then that transitioned over to like kids' wilderness trips, teaching them land navigation and horsemanship and doing this all out in the wilderness. From there, I ended up getting a facility. I turned the facility into a trail ride, kids camp, boarding, so on and so forth, all of the different aspects of horsemanship and horses. I built a great lesson program that expanded and grew. I ended up building and exiting 3 horse facilities before I got to where I am now. I just purchased a facility in San Francisco area, about 3 minutes from the San Francisco Zoo, right off of the coast. We have unobstructed views of the ocean and trails down to the beach. So it was a long but short journey to this level of success. And the whole way, I allowed military veterans to ride for free, so that if they can hopefully get some of that therapy and love that I got while working with horses. So
That is awesome. That is really, really cool. And I love that it's, you incorporate stuff for the kids too, as well as the veterans. Were horses always part of your life growing up, or do you kind of get in line with them as you got older? What did that look like for you?
when I was in high school, I met a girl who liked horses, and I liked the girl, so I liked horses, and then yeah, it grew from that. I was in the military, and I would cowboy in the weekends as I could, and then every step of my journey was I got closer and closer to the horses, but it wasn't really I dove like all in when I got out of the military.
When it comes to the facility and how you actually built the business from the ground up, how did that layer upon itself? Like I know you kind of went through it very quickly before, but how did that actually kind of layer and build upon itself?
I failed forward constantly. That's how it happened. So I found a person who had a successful horse business, and I basically went and worked for him for free. I was like, okay, I'm going to work for you for free. You're going to give me knowledge. And as I was working my ever loving butt off for him, he gave me a promise that he would help me start my business. It turned out that that promise was empty, but I did learn a lot. And when it came time that I asked him to honor his side of it, he kind of I was a little forceful about it, so he gave me an opportunity, but he really set it up for failure. When we came, he was supposed to guide me through the wilderness that he's already done his whole life. And the day that the kids showed up for this was one of my first big contracts, where I was going to excel into the next stage of business. The day that the kids showed up, he called in. He's like, "Hey, buddy, not gonna be able to make it." And so, typically, this would have been a business failure. You lost your guide, you lost the guy who knows it, and it actually opened up a whole nother thing. I was like, okay, so I have the kids here. I have the counselors that come with that camp. I've got my staff. I have all the horses, and the guy who's supposed to make this all happen didn't show up. So I was like, all right, well, here's a compass, here's a protractor, and here's a map. Kids, I'm going to teach you guys land navigation. And so I figured it out on the fly. That was never supposed to be a part of my business model. But after that first camp, they called me back. They're like, holy cow, that was the best experience. All the kids, the counselors, everybody thought this was amazing. They did not expect to learn as much as they were going to learn. Like, you got everybody off the horses. You showed them the map. It seemed so real. Like, I don't know how you did it. It's like, because it was real. Woo. And yeah, so after that, this contract that was supposed to be lost, I wasn't supposed to be able to. He wanted to keep it. They signed with me, and that was a huge loss that turned into a win. And then the next big leap into a higher level of success, we were pretty stagnant. We were happy. This is a point where some people would have said, "Okay, you're good, live your life." I didn't know that I was going to do better. And then my wife said that she wanted to be closer to her family. So I went and to where her parents were and drew a 50-mile radius around where they lived. And I went to every single dilapidated, underutilized horse facility within that area. And I built a business model for every single one of them. And then I walked up to every single door and I showed them the model. I said, "Hey, I can make you guys more successful if you bring us on. So sign a contract with us, bring us on. I could build these programs. You guys will make more money. We'll make more money. Everybody's going to be happier. If you don't want to use me, you can keep this plan. You could try to do it yourself. Here's the thing, I can do it. I don't know if you can do it. Here's the plan to make money. You could try it, or you could bring me on." And some people took my business plan and said, "Okay, thank you, bye." But finally somebody said, "Okay, show me what you got." So we were able to move down. We ended up doing a very successful job with that. And then from that, we ended up getting a large county contract. And so I put in an RFP for that contract. It went well. Then COVID happened, and we failed completely on our butt right by the end of that. And then from that complete failure, I had like 20 employees. There was like 80 horses. We had a strong, robust business with a lot of moving parts, and we had like a complete failure. It went from the highest level of success in the horse industry to zero. And 2 weeks later, I got a contract on a winery and turned the winery into a winery horse ranch. And within a month from that complete failure, I was back in success again. We were moving, being successful, building this business, built that one up. And then from there, again, we were looking at my daughter was now, maybe a year old. And we were trying to think, okay, where do we want her to be? Where do we want to raise a kid? And so then I found this opportunity in San Francisco. And so we bought this, transitioned from there to here. And now we've been running this for about a year. And we took a dilapidated, underutilized horse facility in the San Francisco area, and we've turned it into gold in about a year.
That is quite a story. That is really, really awesome. I feel like so many people that they try to go out on their own as an entrepreneur, You get punched in the gut a couple of times. It just really wears you down. But it sounds like you really just you picked yourself off the ground, you brushed yourself off, and you just tried the next thing, and that's really, really cool. How much of that do you think is your personality versus what you were trained in the military? That perseverance. How do you think that your personality in the military shaped you for that?
A lot of people join the military, and I wouldn't say a lot of people come out of there having, you know, that ability to push through anything. I the military gives you the tools to do with it as you please. You can either go in there and you can do your time, you can get out, and you can learn nothing, get your paychecks, and exit. It doesn't call for you to be the best version of yourself just by being in the military. You have to have that internal fortitude to push yourself further. So the military is not what makes you do that. It's you got to come up with some personal development and something in your mind that pushes you to want to do better. I've always had this mindset that if somebody could do it, I could do it, or I could do anything for a day. I could do anything for an hour. I could do anything for 15 minutes. So I break things down into the smallest group I can, and then I tackle that small group. And not, like if the big picture is uncomfortable and you can't handle that big picture, break it down to the point where you can handle it. Okay, well, I could do that. Great. And then I could do that. Great. And then before you know it, you can handle the whole picture in small bite-sized pieces.
So I want to hang on this for a second because it's so interesting. All these I'm gonna say philosophies, for lack of better words, that you're kind of throwing at me, which is great. Are you very well read? Do you read a lot and pick up these things? Do you listen to podcasts and absorb these things? Where does that mentality come from? Because it's a great mindset.
I read quite a bit. I'm constantly educating myself. I've nonstop gone to school for like I at this point I should have more than the degrees I have. I am not consistent in that manner. I just go for the educational points that I want. I just finished school in computer science. I am a big fan of computer science. I think it's like the closest thing to magic that we have in this world. So I constantly educate myself. I'm constantly going back to school. I think that if you want to be an entrepreneur, then you've pretty much set yourself up in a situation where you have to constantly learn, constantly grow, because you are at war constantly in business. There's always somebody else who wants that contract. There's always somebody else who wants that facility. It's very, very rare that you're in a bubble and you're the only one doing what you're doing. So if you start slowing down, if you think that you're good, it's only going to be a matter of time before your competition rolls up there and takes it. So
You talked before about going through the RFP process. I think it was for a county contract, if I remember correctly. How did you stumble across that? How did you set yourself up for that? Was it someone they told you about it? Was it through your intelligence gathering? Were you stalking county websites looking for contracts that were coming up? How did that unfold for you? How did you find that?
I was subcontracted on the property. Then I found that the person who had the full contract was coming up on his new request for proposal, and we weren't going to be a part of it. It was through through a very unfortunate circumstances. I found that they had somebody else who was coming in to take the position that we were doing there. So it's one of those things where I had nothing to lose. I was like, well, I'm going to go against them then. The person that had the contract that I was fighting against was a congressman, or a prior congressman, had all the power and resources needed. And it was like me and my wife and some people writing our own RFP till 4 a.m. every single day, just basically killing ourselves, 3 hours of sleep, writing up a 300+ page RFP to take this. And we had 2 weeks to put in RFP from the time that we decided we're going to do it to the time that we put it in. 2 weeks, we wrote over 300 pages, put together a full comprehensive plan for every aspect of this business and how we were going to do it. We walked in, and I remember it very, very clearly. Again, when I told you, you could be so stagnant thinking that you're on top of the world and then your competition is going to get you. I was the little guy who took out the big guy in this situation, where I walked in there with 300+ pages and I was ready to go and I was dressed the part. And they walked in and their flip-flops, not carrying, just thinking that they had this one with a maybe 3-page RFP in their hand. And they just didn't think that they had a problem. And when we went in there, we blew the county out of the water. We told them everything that we were going to do. We had everything, very meticulously planned, and we won. And so this, anybody can do it. It was we were a team of three, and we won a $16 million piece of property in that area, with a 10-year with options contract. Now, unfortunately, after COVID, we ended up losing. And, we spent 4 years succeeding and then fell on our faces. But, that was enough to build a good reputation, to build a good system, all the systems I needed to make the next few work.
Let's talk about your business education, because you said you went to school for computer science. Did you supplement that with any other business courses in higher ed? Did you use other like online resources? How did you, or just through talking to people, how did you build up, how did you level up the business side of yourself?
Whatever I fell short on, I would go educate myself on. Nobody wants to do accounting. Accounting seems boring, but you've got to know it. So I've taken, and it's so hard for me for some reason. I've taken my like accounting 101 like 4 times. Then I finally got to a point where it stuck so well that I went to the next, course of accounting. But over the last like decade, I've taken, tons of classes on whatever I fall short on. My thought is, yeah, sure, I could hire somebody, but if I can't talk the language, then I'm screwed. So, and people take advantage. It's the same thing with computer science. Like I've built software stacks to build my business right over and over and over again. And it took me forever to find something that was actually right. Now, I have all of my resources for an entire business, like 360 view in one company. I have an ERP system now, and I wouldn't have had that if, I didn't get taken advantage of, go to school, learn so that I didn't get taken advantage of over and over and over again.
Invariably, when business get to a certain size, you have to get employees. And I believe you said at one point, I think it was 80 employees and 20 horses, I think is what you said. Other way around. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was that process like, especially hiring that first employee? I think of like all the HR stuff that goes with that, and paperwork and stuff to the state, and what was that process? I would find it very intimidating, but I don't think you did, because the way you seem to just kind of go after everything. But what was that like for you?
I remember vividly the first time I got an employee. I've had people like helping out, and I've had employees, but they've all been just like support pieces to me. But I'm like, me and my wife, we're the driving force. We're the ones doing everything. And we're like, okay, but I need this hand, and I need these people. So these people are my support system, but I'm still like, without me, the whole thing stops. And I remember my wife and I were out looking at a house to buy. And we had a trail ride that we needed to take out, and we had our time set up. We're like, okay, we need to leave, and we'll get back in time to take out this ride. Our staff that we have are getting the horses ready, but again, these are, it still doesn't run without us. And then we got stuck in traffic, and we're like, we're not going to make it for this ride. And she's like, well, I mean, you've trained this kid up; he can do it now. Maybe just call him and tell him to take out the ride. So I called him up, and I was like, okay, hey, I know that this is crazy. You've never had to do it yourself. Can you take this out? And he took it out. And then an hour later, he called me. He's like, oh, it went great. My wife and I looked at each other like, did we just make money while sitting here? Yeah, like we're in the car and we're making money. Ask him to take out the next one. So I asked him to take out the next one, and she's like, well, do you want to go get dinner? Like, yeah. So he took out another ride, and then I called him at the end of the day. He took out 3 or 4 rides. And I was like, how'd it go? He's like, it was all great. I got tips. I was so happy. There's, like, these people are great. Like, I didn't even realize how much you're making in tips. I was like, now you are great. I'll see you tomorrow. So he showed up the next day, and, I went on the rides, but I went on the back of the rides this time. I let him take out the rides, and he was doing fine. And then my wife came in, and she's like, could we do this with like the lessons too? I was like, maybe, but nobody knows how to do the lesson. So we got to write this down. So this is where we started building SOPs and putting all of our stuff on paper. We're like, okay, how do we break this all down so that our, the students can become our employees, and we can teach them how to do all the stuff we do. And so we spent a lot of time just breaking everything down to the simplest forms. And then we like figured out who's the closest thing to us that has systems like this. Oh, karate. So I looked at karate. I'm like, okay, they have a system where their white belts go to yellow belts, go to brown belts, go to black belts. Once they get up higher, then they can become instructors and they can teach the people younger than them or lower than them. So we're like, okay, that's a great model. Let's take that and run with it. And so it took one time for us to realize, okay, we can expand, we can grow, we can make way more money if we allow more people to do things. And yes, there was cost that came onto it. So we're like, okay, what's the cost? Workers' comp's going to be like, if I pay $10, I'm paying another $5 of workers' comp because this is expensive. It's horses. Is it worth it? Okay, it's only worth it if we scale this big. Okay, can we do that? Great. Okay, we could do that. And so we tried it and it worked. And we're like, okay, we need to scale it more so that we can do more. And this was like, it was like we opened the Pandora's box and then we grew.
Before you talked about the person that you they kind of took you under their wing and they were going to help you out. They're going to do all that. And then they kind of left you high and dry. What did that do to your psyche? Did that kind of leave you a little bit jaded with other people offering to help? Or were you like, no big deal. I got this. That first time by yourself was a success. So like, you're good. What was that like?
I just punch through things. And it never changes who I am. I think my wife would want me to be a little bit more jaded because I keep giving everybody the same opportunities and I allow them to fail, and that's fine. And then, you fail, you do something wrong, and then I cut you off and you're gone. But I'm not going to treat the next person. It's just like horsemanship and training horses. If a horse does something wrong and I get hurt or it scares me or it does something to me, if I bring that with me to the next horse or even the next training experience with that horse, I'm setting that horse up for failure. So I have to be a clean slate myself coming in and treating the horse the way I want him to be, not the way that he's been. And I can't treat the next horse the way that the horse I just rode is, because it's a whole different horse and a whole different experience. So I think I would probably be a pretty poor horse trainer if I didn't treat my entire life the way that I treat training horses. So
that is an awesome perspective. I really, really like that. Okay. So I was talking to Shane Ledyard, is another horse trainer here on the East Coast. And one of the ways he recommended for someone to get started is pretty much exactly what you tried, that you work with someone that's already in the industry, you kind of get a reputation for yourself, and then kind of you do your thing. So my question for you, getting started with horses, you said that I think you were in high school, I believe you started riding a little bit, and then you went in the military, and I'm assuming no horse riding in the military. And then you kind of came back. So what was that process like? How much time did you have under your belt riding horses before you started doing this, going down this road?
People who watch me ride, people who watch me train horses would say I'm highly talented. When I started my business, I don't know if I would have very many people saying that, but there's nobody who wouldn't say that I'm the hardest worker out there. So I can't put it on being talented at what you do, not giving up though. You'll always outwork if you never give up, you can't lose.
That is so true.
And if you are willing to outwork everybody, then you add those two things together, outwork everybody and never give up, then eventually you're going to be the best, or at least you're going to be in the same playing field as them.
So let me ask you this then, and this is kind of tangentially related to what we were just talking about. How important is to have a strong horse background in order to be in a successful horse business like the one you're doing?
First of all, you can get yourself really hurt if you don't have an understanding of horsemanship. So you can't just go into this without anything. You need to find mentors. You need to find people that can make you safe. But if let's just cut away that side of it and just go on the business side of things. If you have some serious good systems in place and you understand business really well, then you can, with anything. I don't know anything about baseball. Nothing. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. But I do know that just like this industry, there's probably people highly talented, like insanely talented, that aren't, that are not making a living or barely making a living with baseball, that might want an opportunity to make more. So if you can put together systems and you can pick their brain and say, okay, what's the exact process from A to Z to get somebody to be talented in this? Like, what is it that you would do? You could break it down in somebody else's mind and then take that, put that system together, then take those people and have them, put together a good book online software, put together an ERP system, put all of the systems in place, and then get your instructors in place, people that know what the heck they're doing. Pick their brain because people are willing to talk about what they love. So find people that are passionate about baseball, have them pick their brain, take all of those things, put systems in place for every single one of them, and before you know it, you have a business, and you have these talented people running in each section of it. Horses is hard because you can get hurt. So like if you want to be involved in it, you need to be talent. You need to know what you're doing. If you just want to talk about the high level being a businessman, well, it's just like anything else. Put together really good systems. So there's two sides to it.
Zachary, I love that. That's such great practical advice for anyone that's going down the road of being an entrepreneur. I love that. We're running a little short on time. So the one thing I do want to do, whenever I'm speaking with someone, I like to give them the opportunity to talk about a project they're working on, a cause they believe in, more about their business. So Zachary, I'd love to give the floor over to you if there's something you'd like to discuss.
So we have the horse facility here in San Francisco. And right now we have lessons, trail rides, kids camps, leasing and boarding right on the, unobstructed views of the ocean, trails down to the beach. We just got all the permits to put a food truck there with a beer and wine license. So to like have a beer and wine garden. And we're putting pods in the back so people can stay overnight and have like a whole dude or guest ranch experience right here in the San Francisco area. So that is something that we do. And we pride ourselves on military veterans riding for free. Horses saved and helped me. And my way of trying to give that back and let my brothers and sisters get the same healing process is everybody pays except for veterans. And those who pay are keeping it free for our veterans.
Follow-up question for you. If someone is vacationing, they are coming out to the San Francisco area and they want to take advantage of this, is this something they can just show up the day of? Do they need to book in advance? How does that work for you?
Yeah, you have to book in advance, definitely. We're fairly booked out. So you would go onto our website, oceanviewstables.com, and then there's a book now button. You could choose the experience you want and either take a lesson, learn some horsemanship, or take a ride down to the beach.
That's awesome information. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes so when people are looking for you, they can easily find you. Zachary, it's been absolutely awesome having you on time to discuss and talk about what it's like to be a professional horseman and business owner.
Yeah, and one last thing. If anybody who is in the horse industry or wants to be in the horse industry is trying to figure out like how do you set up or develop a business on this, I am willing to give up some information and help you along the way. And if you email me, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction on how to set up those first stages. So.
Zachary, that's really awesome. Very generous of you to offer that to our listeners. I thank you so much for that. And again, it's been awesome having you on the show.
All right.